Without a vision, the people perish. Welcome to Vision Plus, a program featuring a positive outlook, dealing with everyday situations of marriage, children, and business. Believing Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Teacher, author, speaker, delighting audiences from New York to Sacramento with a heart and message for the people today. Bonnie would like to remind you of the 800 number on the screen. Please feel free to call at any time throughout the broadcast and share your concerns. Leave your prayer request and someone will pray with you. And now, teacher, author, and speaker, Bonnie.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Vision Plus. I'm Bonnie Libhart, and right here in Huntsville, Alabama, we have a person who works with the FBI. He's also a shepherd at the Twickenham Church of Christ, and he just received in Washington, D.C., he and 6 other people, an honor. He's with the FBI. His name is Jeff Dowdy, and he and the 6 others, March the 27th of 2009, went to Washington for a ceremony, and I'd say congratulations to him for meritorious achievement with while he was stationed in Kabul, Afghanistan. Boy, have we heard a lot about Afghanistan. And I want to welcome you.
Thank you.
And we're going to actually have an opportunity to meet Jill, his wife, and find out a little bit about the 6 years they spent in Greece and some other things that happened. I want to know why, as part of the FBI, you were honored with this meritorious achievement while in Afghanistan.
Well, thank you. It's good to be back.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I was on here, I had mentioned that shortly after I'd come back from Afghanistan, and you asked me a couple questions about it, and I wasn't quite ready to.
Said if I tell you, I'll have to shoot you.
Exactly, exactly. Well, a few weeks ago, I received a notice that one of the events that occurred while I was over there, the FBI headquarters had taken notice of and decided to award those involved in that with a medal.
Oh, how exciting to now be able to tell us here in this area and on the internet or YouTube or wherever we get it. Tell us what happened that January 14th in 2008.
Well, I actually, oddly enough, I had only been there 2 days. I was still jet lagged. I had arrived there on January 12th of 2008. It was shortly after sundown, so January in Kabul is very cold. It's very cold, and so we were having we're going to take a break because you work 16-hour days over there. We'd taken a break to get a quick bite to eat, and the first evening prayers were over. We had not heard those, and as we're sitting in the chow hall eating, we could hear we started hearing explosions and sounds like small arms fire, and being that we were so close to a Western hotel that we were aware, we knew what was being hit, that it was that particular hotel.
So what happened? Now you were there primarily for what reason?
I was in Afghanistan working on a mission that we had to track down bomb makers.
Mm-hmm.
In the previous year in Afghanistan, there had probably been 30 or so IEDs, or improvised explosive devices. When I say that, I mean cars that were loaded with explosives that were parked on the side of the street in Kabul. And as U.S. convoys or government convoys go by, they would detonate themselves.
And they could detonate them like you remote control.
Exactly. They could use remote controls. Mm-hmm. They're VBIEDs to be the technical, vehicular-borne improvised explosive devices. So there was a real problem in Kabul, and unfortunately still a problem, but they recruited a team of us to actually go over and track down those people that were making those bombs.
So you were there because of the suicide bombers, to identify those and to keep them from actually doing this suicide bombing.
That's exactly right. That's
Of a lot of innocent people.
of a lot of innocent people. That's right.
Uh-huh.
So this particular night, as I said, sun had gone down. It was like 6:30, but it was January, so it was pitch dark. And Kabul is not very lit at night. It's a pretty dark city. Not a lot of electricity to waste. So I quickly gathered my gear, my protective gear, what we call a bulletproof vest, and my long weapon, and we all jumped in our vehicles and headed for the hotel while the attack was still going on.
And it was just beginning, just two people that were doing the attack originally.
Well, I wish we'd known that going in. We didn't know that. We actually, when we arrived on the scene, we were told that there were possibly snipers on the building. We were told that really we had no idea how many attackers were in the hotel, and so we, it's easy to look back now and say that there were two, but at the time we had no idea. And
could have been 22.
It could have been 22, and it could have been, who knows? But as it turned out, there were only two.
Now, what were they doing? They were throwing hand grenades and killing innocent guards.
Right. Initially, they killed the guard out front. Then, as they got into the courtyard, like you have, not really a courtyard, but as any hotel, Western hotel, you'll have a circular drive where people pull up and drop off their luggage, things like that. So what we could see that something obviously had blown up right there. And as it turned out, it was actually one of the suicide bombers had either detonated himself, or he was shot and had what was called a dead man switch, in which he would automatically explode. So you really couldn't see much of him, and it was dark. And so that was the first thing we saw, was obviously someone had detonated themselves in the parking area. And if you'd like me to continue,
yes, please,
with that,
go ahead.
With narrative, feel free to interrupt me.
I will.
Tell you what happened. One of the things that stuck out in my mind that night was just as I got out of the car, and we were all rolling out. There were Afghan forces there. It was dark, but there were a lot of flashing lights. I walked by through the parking lot and looked down to my right, and there was a young girl lying there with looked like an American holding her. It was so cold. He was holding her to keep her warm, and that's what I thought he was doing. I wasn't sure what he was doing, but he was holding her, and so I went on past them, was able to get inside the hotel, in which there was a lot of carnage. A lot of people had been killed and moved around and things, and so a lot of chaos, because there were a lot of patrons still in the hotel, and all the windows were shot out, and it was pretty chaotic. There were Afghan forces there. We were there. U.S. military was there, and so got in the hotel. I saw that the desk keeper had been killed, and
they were randomly shooting people.
Randomly shooting with a assault weapon, and really the assault weapons are it's amazing the damage they will do. But at the time, we didn't know who was still in the hotel. If we had shooters still in the hotel, we knew there were patrons still there. I remember a Turkish man that came up to me and got my coat by my coat and asked me who I was with and all that, and I realized he only spoke Turkish and didn't speak any other language. And I thought, what's he doing here? But anyway, I got him out of there just in case he was part of it. Turned him over to the forces, And then an American lady came up to me with red hair, said her belongings were still in the basement where the gym was. She had been working out. Would I go with her to get her cell phone and her all her gym gear? And she said, and I need to show you where a body is. So I escorted her down there. I was armed. I went downstairs with her. Was able to see one American that had been killed. A couple of more people had been killed in the men's locker room. She had oddly enough, she had come out of the ladies' locker room, and between the two locker rooms there was a place where they handed out towels. It was a very, very modern hotel. And when the shooting began upstairs, she got behind the counter. Well, as it turns out, the surviving shooter came down the stairs and went into the locker room, killed some people, came out, and for some unknown reason, she stood up. She stood up and looked right at him. And he pointed the gun at her, and a lady was standing beside her, ran towards the door. He then shot her through the back and through the door and out the door, and she died. And so the lady was very lucky to be alive. She was an American lady over there working with prisoners and human rights issues. So I was able to get her out, and then from there I went back upstairs, and I saw over in the little gift shop area some commotion, and some Afghan troops were dragging a man out. He was hiding under the clothing rack, and had on all he had on was the traditional Afghan garb. All he had on was the pants, no shirt. So we knew something was wrong, and there were a crowd of people around him. Feel free to stop and ask questions. Mm-hmm. And there were a crowd of people around him, of the security forces, and they were interrogating him. But we didn't know what they were saying. So because I do speak the language, and I was sent into the crowd to see what was going on. And he, because I had a beard at the time and I had some of the garb and spoke the language, I was able to get up to him and listen to the interrogation, and listen to what he was claiming to have been an employee, though he wasn't on the list. And then when he looked at me, I could see his eyes were just dead. He was obviously prepared to die, and so I knew he was one of the attackers. And as far as what he was trying to do, they both had come in with military uniforms on. They both planned to kill everyone. And then when we all arrived, they would have their military uniform back on. They would detonate themselves in the middle of us.
Now, is he the one that went by the pool to hide his weapon in his suicide vest and make his escape?
That's correct.
So he had that, but he had it hidden, but he had to go get it in order to detonate himself.
Exactly.
So he didn't get that far, did he?
He didn't get that far.
Mm-hmm. How did you guys keep him from getting... Someone must have known that he's going for a suicide equipment when you realized he was part of the attackers, the shooters.
What gave that away was he had put the garb on, wait till we all got there, to look like an employee. Mm-hmm. And then when we got there, he was going to take his clothes off, put the military uniform on, go get the vest, and put it on. The problem is we caught him halfway undressing, with the shirt off and just the pants on, and we're assuming he was going to get the vest. He could have had second thoughts. We don't know, but either way, we were very fortunate he did not make it over to the vest.
So how did you keep him sequestered or kept him from getting to the vest?
Well, we had a lot of the Afghan forces were there then. They had him handcuffed and
so they didn't kill him right then?
They did not kill him right then, no.
Because they try not to do that unless they're being shot at themselves or attacked.
Exactly. Plus, you want to know if there were other people involved who
he could be a person that could help you identify what all was going on and what the plan was.
Exactly. Someone had to finance this, for example. So
Were you
So
able to find that out? I know later.
we did.
Uh-huh.
We did. We were able to. A lot of people were taken into custody because of it, and over the course of weeks.
What did you do next after you went into the crowd? You saw him. They were able to handcuff him, get him away. Then
Right.
you and your other 6 buddies did what at that time?
We had then get all the people that were hiding. There were group hiding. There was a large group hiding back in the kitchen area.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get them out to safety. We had to account for all the Americans. We had to also get their statements, because this is a criminal investigation now, because Americans have been killed as a part of a terrorist act. So it is an FBI investigation, though it's on a foreign soil. So we had to get them, get their statements. So we got them shuttled over to the embassy compound for the interviews. So our job was to get them out of the rooms and get them on the buses and get them to safety.
You actually went, you and your 6 people went room to room to
That's
look
right.
for additional.
That's right.
And were you able to find other additional people?
Oh, there were quite a few. And in fact, I could tell an amusing story. There were not a lot amusing happened that night, but if you look at the 7 of us that were there, the 7 FBI agents that were there, one of them is actually Korean American.
Oh.
He's an outstanding individual, great sense of humor. And he was cleaning the rooms. Really big guy.
Korean,
right. Korean
we
American.
don't think of a Korean being a really big guy,
He
but
was.
he was.
Oh, he was.
But of
a very
course,
big
American
guy.
too.
And we found that the Korean ambassador, South Korean ambassador to Afghanistan, was in the hotel, in one of the rooms. So he pounded on the room door, saying, "Open up, come out." And we knew this was the Korean ambassador's room, and the Korean ambassador said, "I'm not coming out." He said, "Why aren't you coming out?" He says, "How do I know you're not Al Qaeda?" And he said, "Do you really think Al Qaeda speaks Korean?" And he says, "You have a point." So he came out and got him to safety.
Okay. So got him to safety.
Right.
And let's see. So you were clearing the room, evacuated 39 hotel guests, including 20 U.S. citizens, and they did not know that the second attacker was still in the hotel at that time
That's
of
right.
the evacuation. Now, what happened after you cleared the hotel and conducted an investigation? Extensive investigation in the crime scene. What was going on?
Okay,
next?
one issue we had, and this is a sad story, but I think it has a good ending to it. One issue we had was we knew there were, after reviewing the footage countless times, we could see only 2 attackers. One of them we had, one of them was dead. The problem was, and this is very macabre, I know, and very gruesome, so if there are kids watching, we had 3 feet.
Uh-oh.
Yes. 2 left feet and a right foot.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a problem.
Yes.
And it was a problem that we dealt with for several days. What did we miss? Was there a bomber already in the hotel that had pre-positioned? We really didn't know, because no one claimed this foot. There were 2 left feet and 1 right foot. So we got word from one of the Afghan embassy employees that they had a friend whose husband was a security guard out front, and he in fact had been hit with a grenade and believed to have lost his foot. He unfortunately had died on the way to the hospital. He bled to death. But we're now at like 2 weeks after the investigation had started, after the attack had occurred. So we had the extra foot, and so we had to bring her in to identify this, to find out if this was in fact her husband's foot. So I don't know if my wife could identify my foot, or you could identify Tony's foot, but one of the pictures of the photos of the feet that we showed her, I'll show you on my hand. This man had one toe that crossed the other toe slightly, and he was a security guard, so every night when he got home his wife would rub his feet. And this was the third photo, and when she saw that that toe was over the other toe, that was it.
Actually, Tony's foot is like that, the
Okay.
left one, and I would know that too.
So she did, and she became very upset, very upset.
I can believe that. Well, what inspiration or reflection have you had since then? Because you got you cleared the hotel room, conducted the investigation, so you guys had such an incredible experience. So what inspiration or reflection? I heard that a story was told at Twickenham
Right.
Church of Christ, and I wanted to hear that story.
It was basically related to the foot because, you know, when we're put here on earth, we all have paths, but we don't get to necessarily control that path. We don't get to decide where we're going to end up. And with this particular person, this particular lady, she was very distraught that her husband's foot wasn't with his body and he could not be at whole in paradise. She was a Muslim. And so I actually took the foot, and she was destitute, 2 sick children at home, basically starving in the cold. Culture would not allow her to remarry. Her future was very, very dim, and I basically was the first American, the first Christian she had ever met. And Jill and I have been very blessed. We're very fortunate, and so I knew Jill would give me permission. I actually paid to bury her husband's foot. He'd be exhumed and the foot be put back with the body. And so this continued, the relationship continued with me, not just me, with other FBI agents. And there was a lady there who was a devout Christian that took time with her and actually took her clothes and finally got her a job at the embassy. And oh, by the way, the first time she comes to the embassy to get the money, it was bitter cold, and we looked down, and you can only guess what she was wearing. She was wearing her husband's boots that he had been killed in. Yeah, that's all she had. The boot that was blown off of him and the boot that was still attached to her body. That gives you an idea how poor this woman was. And so we paid to bury the foot. She was extremely grateful, but still no future. Between combined efforts, we were able to get her a job at the embassy, paying like 4 times what the average Afghan makes. And it's a long-term, long-lasting job, and where she is working in the laundry. And at first, you would see her, and she was still, when she finally got to work, she was in mourning. But by the time it was over, the time I left after 4 months, I would see her smiling. I would see her laughing. I would see her in the laundry room, and she would strike up a conversation with me. And I know my last day there, she saw me packing. She came over crying, and she said, "You know, I don't know what this is all about, but everything has been made whole now. You know, my husband's at peace. My life is better than it would have ever been as far as taking care of my family and children." And so maybe that was the start of something with her, with other people, other Americans.
So she would at least know that a Christian, and you could speak the language.
I could speak the language, and so she picked on me a lot because I was the one that could talk, and she didn't speak any English. So she would always seek me out. She offered to iron one of my shirts once, and that turned out to be a mistake, but that was okay.
You don't have that shirt anymore,
I don't have
you?
that shirt anymore. She apparently never used an iron before. But
so how have you handled this emotionally, and how like the most gratifying. That's probably one of the most gratifying things that happened to you in
It
this
was.
old, and that affected you. That you could see that the kindness of a Christian could affect another person to get them. She would have died without what you helped her to do.
She would have died if.
And
if
her
the group of
children,
us-
maybe.
Exactly. She would have died, and I guess it certainly makes you grateful that we live in our country here, but it also it was also it was a sad night. It was a sad event. And I have an award here, a medal here.
Yes,
that-
yes. FBI Medal for Meritorious Achievement
For this.
presented to Jeffrey W. Dowdy, Special Agent, FBI, United States Department of Justice, in acknowledgement of his heroic actions on January 14th, 08. Special Agent Jeffrey W. Dowdy assisted in evacuating all the guests from a Kabul hotel during a suicide attack. Of course, that's in Afghanistan. And SA Special Agent Dowdy's exceptional performance during this very dangerous situation certainly warrants this special recognition. Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit because the president appears very popular, yet no one agreed to help the USA, not the French people, sending soldiers to Afghanistan. We didn't get into that. Maybe God didn't want me to. And he said 2 days ago, I heard it himself, America has never nor will ever go against the Muslims. And so I would, maybe we'll have to do that another time. Let's get your
I would
opinion.
be happy to talk about this.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
We're
you.
going to have, this is Jeff Dowdy.
This was a great reward and a great honor, but the greatest reward was, being able to help the people. And when I look at this, I have to remember that there were a lot of people that died that night. But the greatest reward, I think, was being able to help someone else in this. And so,
You've been an inspiration to all of us at Twickenham, and so is your whole family. I look
you.
forward to learning more from Jill's standpoint.
great.
We're going to do that. That'll be, probably you'll see that the following Saturday night. And possibly even, they might run it right after this program. I'm Bonnie Libhart. Bless your heart for watching.